Is a fast or slow cube the best way to go? The top solvers in the world all use 3x3s that are set up pretty differently. A lot of the young kids from China use super fast 3x3s. A lot of the old school American solvers use cubes that are somewhere in the middle. And there's a couple of people like Luke Garrett or Qiqian, who is a fastest female in the world from China, very, very young. They use very, very slow puzzles. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of using fast versus slow cubes, the puzzle that I recently tried, what my main is going to be going forward, and how you should think about this as well. So first off, what actually does it mean when we say a Rubik's Cube is fast? Well, it normally has two parts to it. The first part is that you used some sort of low viscosity lube to set up the puzzle. So something like DNM37 or some other water-based lubricant that makes the puzzle turn really, really smoothly and quickly. The second component to a fast puzzle is having a loose tension. Tension is how able the cube is to flex like this. So a loose tension results in a low downward force on the cube. So by tensioning the cube tightly, by turning the screws on the inside of these pieces to be super, super tight, it forces the layers to push together more. And by loosening them, which a fast cube will have, the layers naturally exert less downward force on each other, which means lower friction and faster turning speed. Additionally, looser layers makes it easier for a cube to complete a turn in less than 90 degrees of movement. So a normal turn takes a full 90 degrees to move like this, but a looser cube allows you to turn not a full 90 degrees, and then the layers will still align like that if you try to. So there are some components of fast cubes that are just baked into the way the puzzle is designed. Some puzzles, when you take them out of the box and you don't apply lubricant or adjust the tensions at all, are faster or slower than others. But this is what I'm mostly talking about. The way the puzzle is set up. Is your lubricant low viscosity and is your tension loose, which results in low friction and it being easier for you to complete turns in under 90 degrees of movement. A slow puzzle is the opposite. You're using a lube that's thick or sticky, like the Angstrom Gravitas or Super Honey lubricants, or maybe something like FZ Calm. Your tensions are also going to be tighter, which means a high downward force of the cube on its own pieces, which results in more friction. A pro of this is that the cube stays in cube shape. It's harder to complete turns before you make a full 90-degree movement, which means that your puzzle is stable, but it is less flexible. So why would you choose something fast versus something slow? We're at a point where there's not an objectively better way to go. A fast puzzle literally lets you turn faster. There's less friction on each turn. So the amount of time that it takes you to go from corner align to corner align is less physically because there's less friction and the puzzle is able to move faster. Your hands will naturally get less tired when your puzzle moves really, really quickly because you have to exert less force to turn each layer. You're able to do really specific finger tricks, for example, pinch F moves like this, much more easily on a fast cube, versus a slow cube. But on the downside, it's easier to be inaccurate. If you're turning really fast on a fast cube, it can kind of run away from you and catch at weird points because your hands are moving so quickly that you can misalign things slightly. On a really slow puzzle, because the turns move slower, it's much easier to line up your turns exactly and be accurate. As a result of that, it tends to force you to be very fluid with how you turn. You can't spam fast moves, so in order to solve quickly, you have to use your brain to compute what's coming next. So the puzzle being slower, in a sense, forces you to use fluid, look-ahead based turning. It, on the downside, requires physical effort to turn faster. You don't accidentally spam TPS if you're using a cube that's set up really, really slowly. And doing really specific niche finger tricks like pinch F moves or odd B moves or middle finger U moves while you're doing pinch F moves, those get a lot harder to do because it takes more force to turn each layer of the puzzle. So really advanced finger tricks become less usable. So I've tried 3 different setups. A fast one, a slow one, and then a different fast one. I'm just going to talk through each of those and why I've ended up on the particular setup that I use now. If this is interesting to somebody, great. The first setup that I tried when I got back into cubing competitively was the Weilong V11, and that is this puzzle. I have an 8 magnet and a 20 magnet version. The 8 magnet one has springs in it, which means that there's more downward force between the layers, so it turns a little bit slower. And the 20 magnet one is maglev, which means that there's less force between the layers, so it turns a little bit faster. My thoughts on this puzzle are that it is extremely smooth and responsive to turn. There's very little resistance to starting any given turn. The turning just feels really buttery and nice. It never catches on anything. There are some puzzles where you can feel the corners of the pieces kind of bonking against each other. It creates this catching feeling. You never ever get that with the Weilong V11 on any of its versions. A downside of this puzzle is that it lacks tactility. This puzzle turns so smoothly that you almost can't tell when you get to the end of one turn and you start the next one. If you're a good cuber, that doesn't mess you up that much, but it's not as satisfying to turn. So the smooth responsiveness of this cube comes at the cost of a degree of tactility. The turning, how fast it moves, kind of starts to run away from you if you set it up quickly. This is what I found with my fast Weilong V11. I was trying to get faster at my last layer. I was doing lots of PLL time attacks, which is where you do all the PLLs back to back as fast as possible. And even though I was able to set really fast individual records, generally my turning was kind of locky because I'd be turning super fast and I would lose control of the cube and then it would start to catch. So after using this puzzle for like a month and a half, with varying setups, I felt like it's an extremely good 3x3, but I would like something that's a little bit more tactile. I value the tactility for two reasons. The first is that it helps you control turning on a fast cube. If you can never feel when a turn is over and when the next one is starting, it becomes kind of tricky to modulate your turning speed. And the second one is it's just nicer to turn on. It's a personal preference. I think that if you're looking for one recommendation for a 3x3, the Weilong V11 8 magnet version is what I would recommend to most people. So as I was using that really fast Weilong and I started getting frustrated with how quickly it turned, I tried some cubes that were set up much more slowly. This is an RS3M V5. I have 7 of these and I set them all up in a bunch of different ways. But the short version of this cube is that it has very tactile, smooth turning. I've set these puzzles up a few different ways. I've tried some of them using the Cubicle's Angstrom setup. I talked to Phil, the owner of the Cubicle, and he recommended I try doing a Super Honey, Gravitas, and FZ Calm setup, and I really liked both of these. It's much more tactile than the Weilong is. The Weilong, you almost can't tell when your turns are over, and everything blends really well. On the RS3M V5, you really notice when each turn is over, and the pieces feel a little bit more squared off. It feels blockier, which means that on the whole, the cube feels sturdy and predictable when you turn it. But the flip side of that sturdy predictability is that the puzzle can get in the way sometimes. Because it's so blocky, heavy, sturdy, thick, smooth turning, it doesn't flow quite as well as the Weilong. The puzzle is exceptionally consistent. I used it in competition a few weeks ago and absolutely loved how stable it was. I felt really safe on the puzzle. But when I'm really in flow state, I can start to get frustrated at the puzzle because of how blocky it is. So after using the RS3M V5 for a few weeks, I really liked it, but it feels a little bit too blocky and limiting when I'm in serious flow state because of how squared off the pieces are and how heavy and thick it feels. There are some fast solvers like Luke Garrett who still main this puzzle, and I totally see why. And if you're in one-handed, I can definitely see why you would main this puzzle. The price point of $25 makes this an easy recommendation for anybody who's not the most dedicated cuber on Earth. But for me, I'm moving away from this puzzle because when I'm in true flow state, it doesn't work as well for me. So I went from that back to a really fast puzzle with the GAN 16. That's this cube. And I have it set up with the FZ setup from the Cubicle, Calm and Rush. and I really like the speed. It's light. You almost don't notice that the puzzle is lubed. You'd never think about the lubricant feeling between the pieces. You just turn the puzzle. The GAN 16 has a bazillion different settings. So the way that I have it set up is like this. There are magnets between the edge and the center of the cube, which you can take out. So I've done that. You can see there's no magnet on this piece. There's a hole there. Those magnets oppose the magnets in the core of the cube. So the theory behind those is as you turn the puzzle, right here, the cube is magnetized into cube shape. There are attractive magnets between the pieces here and between the corner and the core of the cube. And then there's a repelling magnet inside this piece. So right now, this corner is being attracted to the center. And then as you turn, there'd be a repelling magnet right here that kind of quickly rushes the cube past the middle of the turn. So it almost feels like it auto-completes its turns. I took those magnets out. The reason is that turn auto-completion was too tactile for me. It made the cube turn itself so much that I felt like I lost control of it sometimes. This is hit or miss. Some fast solvers take the edge magnets out, some of them leave it in. Notably, Timon and Felix Semdegs both take the edge magnets out of the puzzle, and I prefer them out because it helps me flow better, and it makes the puzzle noticeably lighter weight when you're holding it. The next one is the cube has corner to core magnets, which helps with the puzzle staying in alignment in cube shape, and I like the stock strength on these. I forget what color that is. And then there are two more settings on this puzzle. There's center travel, which is how flexible is the puzzle, and there's tension. Center travel is how much can this move around like this. Like if I wiggle the pieces around, how much give does this have? And tension is how much can these pieces pull apart. So center travel is flexibility, and tension is downward force. How much are the layers compressing together? How easy is it for you to cut corners like this? I'm on 4 for both settings. So if you pop the cube open, I'm on center travel 4, which is the inner ring, and tension 4, which is the outer ring. This was the Goldilocks point for me for both of these. I have tried looser center travel and tighter tension, and I didn't like it. It felt too restrictive. And I've tried looser tension and tighter center travel, and again, it felt too restrictive. It's personality based, but this seems to work for me. My thoughts on the puzzle overall are that it is extremely stable, fast, light, and fluid. So stability in contrast to the Weilong, because the Weilong felt a little bit more flexible in my hands than the GAN does. The GAN feels so lightweight that it's hard to go back to Moyu puzzles once you get used to the weight of the puzzle. And it has a really nice tactile feeling, but still flows well. Old GAN cubes were so tactile that it felt like the puzzle solved itself, and I didn't like it very much. I really valued the smoothness I could get out of a Moyu cube, but the GAN 16 treads the line of being tactile enough to notice the bump when you complete a turn, but fluid enough that it's still nice to solve on. The puzzle can be a bit catchy when I'm turning imprecisely. Because the corners are so squared off and the magnets are so strong, if I'm not completing my turns or nearly completing it and start relying a lot on corner cutting, the puzzle's performance degrades a good bit. But I actually am okay with that, because first, that's mostly a skill issue. That's me not completing my turns well. It's not the puzzle's fault. And second is that I like that feedback. On other puzzles, I just lock up completely when I'm turning poorly. Whereas on the GAN, I can kind of feel that I'm turning poorly, but it doesn't make the turning worse. So it's kind of like physical feedback that I need to wake my brain up and keep turning well. So I actually kind of like the, as I get imprecise, the GAN catches, because it helps me turn better. So overall with the GAN 16, because it's so fast and tactile, and it requires precise turning, in order to use it well, you have to be really on your game. You have to be turning well. But this is the puzzle that I've personally ended up on. I'd highly recommend that if you're serious about cubing, you should buy this cube. You can customize it to literally exactly what you want out of a speed cube, because there are so many settings on it. Like if you buy it, you won't be disappointed. You just might like something else better. So this is the puzzle that I'll be maining for the next few months. At this point, switching puzzles around is probably more counterproductive than helpful. Forgot to mention this earlier, but I am sponsored by thecubicle.com. They're my favorite cube store to buy stuff from, buy lubes from. They've been super dedicated to the community for a super, super long time and have the widest, best selection of products of any speed cubing store on the internet. So I would highly recommend shopping there. If you need anything cubing related, use code TRUE at checkout for 5% off your entire order. So, final thoughts for you. If you're trying to decide between a really slow setup and a really fast setup, something tactile or flowy, a lot of it comes down to preference, but I would recommend to anybody who is young or new getting used to a really fast cube. The reason is, in pure theory, a super fast cube is better than a super slow one because by the laws of physics, lower friction means you can physically turn it faster. So if you can hypothetically get used to an ultra-fast loose cube like some of these Chinese kids have done, you are setting yourself up to perform super, super well. If you're somebody who has already developed some skill in cubing and you struggle with look ahead, I would recommend going with a medium to slow puzzle, something like the RS3M V5 with angstrom setup, or maybe a Weilong with angstrom setup, because that slow cube will force you to pick up a turning style that's more fluid and look ahead based. If you're somebody like me who needs to develop faster turning speed and already has a high degree of fluidity and look ahead, then I think the GAN makes a lot of sense. But I would choose a puzzle setup that helps you grow as a cuber. Don't just pick the puzzle setup that you think feels nice or lets you spam turning as fast as possible. Pick something that plays into the development that you need to do and then stick with it for a few months. I think that's everything for this video. If you have any questions or thoughts, drop them below, and I hope someone enjoyed this.